That was Congress leader RPN Singh. We'll play the reaction for RK Singh also in just a short moment from now. Amitabh, many congratulations.
Thank you
for this fantastic piece of investigation. Would you like to tell us or take us through how this scam actually unfolded? How did you chance upon something like this?
Sanket, as a matter of fact, what is, as of now, what is more important is, we'll come back to that investigation part definitely. But what is more important is that Mr. M.B. Rao wrote a letter to DGP Jharkhand.
M.B. Rao is the IG of CRPF, posted in that area.
Yeah, he was posted in Ranchi at that point in time. And he wrote a letter to DGP Jharkhand telling him that questioning him why these 514 youth were kept in a CRPF camp. Sanket, you can't stay in a CRPF camp.
Absolutely.
I can't stay in a CRPF camp. We can't even get in. This is such a classified area. They have the weapons, arms, ammunitions. And right now, what the police have done over there, they have arrested Ravi Bodra, the main intermediary, and they have arrested Dinesh Prajapati. The fact is, Dinesh Prajapati or Ravi Bodra or anybody else doesn't have any authority to send people to the CRPF camp.
For the benefit of our viewers, who are we talking about? Ravi Bodra is the middleman.
He's the main middleman. He's the front man.
Okay.
And he's the kind of a man with the questionable credentials. He has been a rape accused in Nagaland. He has stayed 40 days in jail in Chhattisgarh for demanding levy, extortioning.
You know, Amitabh, I was reading your story. It also talks about the fact that how genuine Ravi Bodra was made to look, because he had like a fleet or a convoy of Cobra CRPF Jawans.
I'd like to interfere. Yes. This is a very interesting thing you have brought up. Now, if there were no connivance, how could he get an escort of a Cobra battalion? The question is, this so-called intelligence officer, Bodra, he was moving about in SUV and was being escorted by one or two people of the Cobra battalion. It obviously shows that he was being prompted. He was being popped up to get youth to him. A. B, very nicely has pointed out that Mr. Rao pointed out this thing somewhere in October 2012. This particular thing that is illegal, and how they pointed to the DG. And DG Jharkhand state, he takes 18 months because in March 2014 the FIR is lodged, which means that you today an IG says that something is going on illegal. How is it this camp is there? This somewhere in October 2012. And the FIR on the behest of the DG, obviously, because he has it to DG, is registered somewhere in March 2014, which means it takes 18 months from the IG's CRP letter to the DG to the FIR. I mean, this is something obviously shows that there smells something.
Absolutely.
That how could
smells of connivance. The point that you were making. Yes, Amitabh, you were saying.
I was saying that you know what police have done. The FIR was registered in March 2014, almost, as you very rightly pointed out. It took so many months for them. The real cover-up starts immediately after that. And just one sentence, why exactly that they lodged an FIR was because Hemant Soren, the Chief Minister, ordered it. Then Chief Minister, he said no, there should be an FIR, because he met all those victims and got to know that this is an FIR case. There must be a police case. Now, the main cover-up has started. The police have arrested two people, Ravi Bodra, the front man, and Dinesh Prajapati. And they have
Who's Dinesh Prajapati?
Dinesh Prajapati is the person who ran institute, and he actually assisted Ravi Bodra in getting those unsuspecting youth, luring them
so
to
the two middlemen
have been arrested, and for police, the case is over. The case is over. In May 2014, since it apparently had connivance of the CRPF officers as well, the then Chief Minister recommended a CBI probe. The CBI is yet to take up the case. Yesterday, when we spoke to Jharkhand Chief Minister, present Chief Minister Mr. Raghuvar Das, he suggested, rather he argued that CBI is to take up the case, this is their baby.
Absolutely.
The fact is, CBI hasn't taken it up.
Absolutely. So there's a massive blame game at this moment. Who investigates? The state government perhaps washing its hands off by just arresting these two people. Does this story end with the arrest of the two middlemen, or does there perhaps appear a case of investigation and trying to find out if there is a need to perhaps expose the larger issue of connivance. Was there CRPF involvement in this or not, as is being suggested by the experts over here? Time for a short break at this moment. We'll try to get in all those answers and then also attempt at speaking with the IG at that moment. Welcome back to this India Today exclusive that we are getting here on Headlines Today. It's 9:30 a.m. and as you are getting ready to go to work, just spare a thought for these people. This India Today story actually shows you these people. They did not have any job, they were unemployed and perhaps were lured into their condition. They were so gullible that their condition was misused by middlemen in perhaps connivance with the CRPF. It's a thought that perhaps you can go to work with and also catch the latest edition of India Today, which hits the stands in about half an hour from now. Now, the point over here is also a bitter blame game. Just before, even before the story actually comes to the fore, you already have a bitter blame game going on in the state of Jharkhand. The CRPF claims its men were not involved in guarding or surrendering. Meanwhile, the Jharkhand police have gone a step further and claimed that there was no scam but an attempt to bring the marginalized youth into the mainstream. Now, on that note, Amitabh, perhaps if you could explain in greater detail that now we have already seen a blame game. The point that you were making just a short while back, the investigation, it seems, has ended with the arrest of the middlemen.
Right.
Or technically ended with the arrest of the middlemen. They were responsible and they've been arrested.
Right.
Why should the angle of connivance not be explored? At the end of it all, they were staying in a CRPF camp.
Absolutely. This is my question as well. Because as of now, the CRPF says that these 514 youths were given the same accommodation as they were given at Ranchi Old Jail campus. This is no answer. The second, the Jharkhand police says that it was an idea to bring those youth into mainstream. What kind of mainstream you are looking at? These are not Naxalites.
Yeah.
You're not giving them any skill training. You're not giving them any technical expertise. You're not giving them jobs. And why do you keep them at a CRPF camp?
And in any case, the marginalized youth will not come with the arms.
Right.
Some of them
absolutely
have been coming with arms. And though you want to rehabilitate marginalized youth, as he rightly pointed out, you will not get arms from them. And then those marginalized youth will not brought to the CRP campus. If it is the state policy to rehabilitate them, how the marginalized youth have been brought to the CRP campus?
Mr. Singh, you have been affiliated and associated with the CRPF. Have you ever come across an incident like this? Hand on heart.
No, I will say not exactly like this. Not exactly like this. CRP are the state police organization. Something like this has been happening. That was in Assam also. In Assam, when the governor was Mr. Sinha at that time. So he pointed out to Sulfa, that was a surrendered Ulfas, surrendered Ulfa they call it. And the surrendered Ulfa, ultimately he said that this is something, a very dastardly sort of thing, game going on. And he says there's sinister design behind it. And some people have been brought in, motivated, just showed motivated to raise the figure of the surrendered. And he said that this is sort of nexus going on between certain people who have to recruit them and state police who wants these people to. And since the money comes from the center for these people, the entire money, entire expenditure is borne by the center. The state wants to let the money be pumped into the state. For this surrender, the entire money is given under the surrender policy. The entire money for these people is given by the...
So it's all cause and effect in the sense that there is a fund that is there for surrendering. In this case also there was a surrender fund.
So there's a cause and effect, there's a cause and beneficiary as well.
Absolutely. In fact, your story also talks about how in 2010, the number of people who technically surrendered was somewhere around 150.
So but it's identical.
It increased to close to 600 in the year 2014.
Absolutely. It means police across the country are concentrating upon this particular thing, making the people surrender. And coming back to the Jharkhand police argument, they said they have kept those youth to bring them into mainstream. Have they done it? Instead of bringing them into mainstream, they have been marginalized. They have been sandwiched in Jharkhand.
Look at it this way. The money, the bribe amount that they had given to these middlemen, they have been robbed of that also. I was reading those small snippets that are there in your story, which actually talk about this narration by these people, the youth who were captured. Some of them say that they had to sell their land.
Right.
Some
would mortgage their land.
Absolutely, they would need close to 40,000-50,000 rupees to regain their land. Where do they get that sort of money?
Absolutely, we met. I mean, we have the example of one of the guy who is working as a laborer at a brick lane in UP, and he's earning 4,000 rupees a month. 18 months back, he was a bright young man, and everybody thought he will be a CRPF constable.
And interestingly, as that when you arrest this middleman, when you arrest him, he says that he has been doing somewhere in April, when he is arrested, April 2014. He is arrested and he says that he had been doing this deal with the guidance of senior police and CRP officer, local police.
Absolutely, this is his confession.
If he says like that.
Focus on that. I really don't know.
If you could just show this to me. This is the confession of the middleman, Ravi Bodra.
The main man.
If you could just take us through what exactly does this confession say? Which portion?
The underlined.
इस क्रम में CRPF, कोबरा एवं पुलिस के कई वरिष्ठ पदाधिकारी के संपर्क में आना तथा उनके दिशा निर्देश पर काम करने लगा. So this is very clearly
confession.
Amitabh, this is as clear as it can get. The FIR where Ravi Bodra has in fact given his statement, he actually says in as clear terms as he possibly can that he worked with collusion of the CRPF and on the orders of senior officials of the CRPF.
Of CRP and police.
And police.
And now interestingly, he is very beautifully brought out. If they are working guidance, now this is first in the chain, this is the first link. And you never have the FIR lying there for 1 year more. It was filed somewhere in April. Now again it's April. 1 year has passed, FIR is lying there with this confession.
FIR is lying. The former chief minister said that there should be a CBI inquiry. There is no sign of a CBI inquiry. Our politicians are busy bickering. What will they do? Will this matter be raised in Parliament? Because it's about marginalization of the youth.
I'll just add one point. To top it all, the person who was IG CRPF when this entire scam started taking place. No, Mr. Rao succeeded him. But the IG CRPF, when Mr. Bodra, Ravi Bodra actually got into his act, was Mr. DK Pandey. Now, Mr. DK Pandey is the DGP Jharkhand.
Please mark it.
Do you think a police inspector who is going into this FIR
will ever act against his own DGP?
Will ever question him? Sir, how did you allow it?
What a fantastic point. I mean, you can be certain that there will be no action.
Absolutely, which is happening.
So all the more reason there should be a CBI inquiry in this case, at least a fair inquiry in this particular case. Let's see, Amitabh, what our politicians are actually going to say or do, and whether there will be that political pressure to make sure that the guilty are brought to book beyond those two middlemen who are in no uncertain terms very clearly saying that there was a hint, or perhaps more than a hint, of connivance. Let's quickly listen in to this reaction coming in from Parliament. The Congress has said it will raise this issue in Parliament and has demanded an inquiry into the falsifications of tribals as Naxals.
This is a very serious matter. If that is so, then a thorough investigation must be done, because in collusion of the state government as well as central government, it's a very serious matter. I mean, the media has caught the attention of it. It's a good thing, but others should also raise it, and we will be raising in Parliament.
All right, the Congress, they are saying that they are going to raise this issue in Parliament. It will be interesting to see whether they do it today or in due course, because the previous government that was there in Jharkhand, Amitabh, was of Mr. Hemant Soren. The support that was being given to Mr. Hemant Soren was by the Congress party.
Right. But when exactly this scam took place, at that point in time, Mr. Arjun Munda was the chief minister of the BJP. But of course, I mean, we cannot blame politicians or the political parties for that matter. This is an act of the bureaucrats. They have allowed such people with questionable credentials to actually
just imagine,
misuse.
Amitabh, the point that you were making, just imagine, it's very fashionable to talk about farmers, sitting in Lutyens, Delhi, sitting in the Delhi area. It's very nice and convenient to talk about these issues. It's really in the back of beyond where you hear stories which are so painful, like this particular one. Imagine how many people would have been there, 514 of them.
514.
What is their status right now?
The worst part, they are sandwiched. Unlike a lot of people in the rest of the country, these guys, I've spoken to all of them, or more than 100 of them, They talk about it and they say that we do not want to confront anybody. In fact, what is most ironical,
they must be scared.
Yes, the most ironical is the fact that these people, they say we don't want any justice. You know, we don't want anybody to be booked. We just want this Naxal tag to be booked, because without it, they are not getting character certificates. And without character certificate, no government or even a corporate world will give them jobs.
Absolutely.
Most of them were matriculate, intermediate, some of them have industrial training institute degrees. So they are skilled enough to get a job for themselves. But they're not getting it.
And because of that Naxalite tag.
Absolutely. And second, worst of all, is that in Jharkhand, where Naxalites are also the second employment generation bureau, a lot of people can go there. I mean, even Naxalites don't trust them.
So the danger is, they are sandwiches.
Right,
absolutely.
Neither the Naxals will believe them, or if at all Naxals doubt them, they may be eliminated.
Naxalites the second side keep on threatening them.
The second side is, now, since they have paid, and if they tell something, these people in the bureaucracy or lower below, they may do some harm to them. So they are scared. They are not ready. They say, we don't want anything. Get us a certificate.
So it's almost a case, Mr. Singh and Amitabh, where the lives of 514 people in Jharkhand right now is at huge risk.
Absolutely.
Because they're, as you mentioned, they're sandwiched between the government, its investigation or lack of it, and on the other hand, the Naxals, the real Naxals who have, of course, who are at large, who are nowhere close to the these authorities, the CRPF. Let's quickly listen into this reaction coming in at this moment. The left has condemned this incident and called for a thorough probe. The CPI has called for the government to come clean on the staged surrender.
This is highly condemnable. This is not the way to deal with the tribal people and their problems. And this is not the way even to deal with the so-called left-wing extremists. There must be a well thought out strategy how to deal with the Maoists, the left-wing extremists. And the police. There will be well thought out development strategy to deal with the tribal people.
Sometimes these tribals were held for years without trial.
That is exactly, this is highly condemnable, and if you go by the figures...
You think there is a need for an inquiry?
Definitely there is a need for thorough investigation what is going on in the so-called Naxal affected areas, because there the tribals are just picked up and kept under custody without any charge sheet, without any trial, and it is happening all over the country. If you take the under trials without charge sheet, their number is so alarming, and our law and order mechanism is so bad, and years together, months together, they are kept under custody without any charge sheet, without taking them and producing them before the court, and no judicial process is initiated, and this is horrible. And they think they can deal with the tribal people and scheduled caste people or minorities just like that, and this way situation cannot go on, and there should be some stoppage of all these undemocratic things, and this incident needs to be thoroughly investigated, probed.
Okay, and also a quick reaction coming in from former Home Secretary and MP R.K. Singh, who has called for an inquiry into this case.
I think it's extremely unfortunate if something like that has come to light. There should be an immediate inquiry into it, and anybody who is to blame for this, extreme action should be taken against him.
All right, for the benefit of our viewers at this moment, let's quickly sum up. I'll ask my producers to put those slides, the 8 points, 8 steps in which you can understand this India Today expose, this India Today investigation carried out by Amitabh. Step number 1, unsuspecting poor youth looking for jobs approached by middlemen. Step number 2, youth were told to surrender as Naxals to avail recruitment as soldiers, no specifics given. Step number 3, the youth pay somewhere close to 50,000 to close to a 2 lakh rupee amount for backdoor recruitment opportunity. Nothing is official. Step number 4, innocents, they surrender as left-wing extremists. They get the label or the tag of being Maoists as advised by the middlemen. Step number 5, agents supply firearms to the youth, which they then surrender at the time of surrendering to make it look like a genuine surrender. Step number 6, the youth stay with the 203 Cobra Battalion of CRPF at Ranchi Old Jail Campus. Step number 7, very recently the new CRPF IG took charge, questioning this illegal stay of 514 youth on the campus, the old campus in Ranchi. And step number 8, the surrendered Naxals are let off, but what is their condition at this moment? As Amitabh mentioned, they're sandwiched. They have no jobs. Their bribe amount has gone down the drain, and they also fear for their life from the genuine Maoists who are roaming around in that area because they have nowhere to go. Amitabh, what is even more tragic, the point that you were making just a short while back, is the fact that there is a very obvious and petty blame game that has begun at this moment. If you could just take us through what the CRPF has been saying all this while and what the Jharkhand police is saying, and we'll put out those graphics also.
Okay. Yeah. Right now, the CRPF official version is that we had nothing to do with these people. They were given the same accommodation, and which is why we were like destined to stay with them. Jharkhand police said it was a confidence building measure. It was, they were trying to mainstream them, which is why they were kept there. I mean, it is so obvious, it cannot sound more hollow than this.
Absolutely.
This logic reaches us nowhere. And they are clearly glossing over several facts. For instance, in any criminal investigation, if anybody is surrendering with arms, who gave them arms? 514 illegal weapons. Is there some kind of gun running happening over there? Where Ravi Bodrak, and he cannot manufacture arms, he must have got it from some police officials.
Absolutely.
And the suspicion can be,
and what happened to that?
And just the suspicion can be that they might have got arms at the point of time when they encountered with some genuine Naxalites, and those arms were lying unaccounted for. And those arms have then gradually been passed on to these people as Naxalites surrendering to them. That is another very interesting feature, because arms are seized at the time of encounter. And the seizure of arms, you have, say, 5 guns, you may show 3. And the 2 guns are lying unaccounted, Amitabh.
But the most interesting point that you mentioned, Amitabh, and that is something that we are in fact going to request our correspondent in Jharkhand to actually try and engage and find out, is the fact that the IG CRPF at that moment, when this entire scandal broke, that IG is now the DGP of the state of Jharkhand.
Absolutely.
How on earth do we expect a fair investigation in this particular case?
How on earth a police inspector can question his DGP?
Absolutely.
Sir, how did you allow it?
Absolutely. How on earth will that happen? And the CBI inquiry, the token CBI inquiry that has been mentioned by the former Chief Minister, will the present Chief Minister, Mr. Raghuvar Das, take this forward or not? We have Rohit Kumar Singh joining us from Ranchi. We'll go across to him in just a short moment from now. Rohit, I will come across to you in just a short moment. Take us through all that you have gathered on this particular story.